What's up guys, I'm back. I'm pretending that I'm talking within the helmet, but I'm just doing voiceover. A wise man once said, the only reasonable way for an adult to wear a space helmet is to ride motorcycle. A chautauqua, it simply means a lesson from Robert Pirsig in the book of the Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. In the book, he would have a conversation with himself to talk about very deep stuff such as meaning of the life, which I know definitely is 42. With all the respect, it is an awesome book if you are having problem falling asleep. Riding a traditional motorcycle has a lot to do with how you use your manual transmission controls. Under different circumstances or different situations, you have to decide which gears to use and when to pull or let go of the clutch. For my 2013 CBR 500R, it's very original and there is no ABS or traction controls. That also means I gotta decide how many braking I use in the front wheel or in the back wheels. One mistake means that my face is gonna be sliding down the road. Now of course, with enough seat time, practice, experience, you'll be able to gain the muscle memory and all those details will be abstract away from you. Once you have achieved that state, you have gained the full feedback loop that all these crazy motorcyclists are crazy about. Another wise man once said, you don't have to be an engineer to be a racing driver, but you do have to have mechanical sympathy. This man's name is actually Jackie Stewart. So what is this feedback loop is all about? When I was little, I got my first computer. It's running Microsoft DOS, which is a command line system. You type in some commands and you'll see the results right away. Fast forward a couple years down the road, we have GUIs, graphic user interface. There's no problem with GUI itself. The problem is that a lot of apps are designed so bad that you basically are filling out a form with tons of information, and only when you hit the submit button, you gotta see the results. In the old DOS, the feedback loop is really tight, but in a badly designed GUI, the feedback loop is very huge. If you make a mistake in one of the controls of the GUI app, you don't know which step you make it wrong. Programming languages are designed the same way. In the early days, computation time is so valuable that programmers have to use punch holes to send in the command, and the computer will give the result. And because so many programmers are sharing the same computer, each command will produce the results with a very short time span to allow all the programmers to have their programs run. But nowadays, that's not how programming works anymore. The IDEs and the code analyzers have become so advanced that people can spend a lot of time to write a huge program and expect it to run fine when they submit the program to the compiler and then get the executables. Me myself is a big advocate of programming languages that has very tight feedback loops. For example, Smalltalk and my weapon of choice, Clojure. They have this REPL concept that you kind of like doing DOS command that you got to see the results right away. But this kind of things comes with a cost. To have the full control, you have to sacrifice nice things such as automations, which makes the learning curve so steep that motorcycling is almost a non-practical activity these days. If you see one, then you will have some secret gestures to show your elitism. That's why Robert Pirsig talked about the romance and the classic conflicts between motorcycles. In his time, it's about people who just want to use motorcycle and don't want to understand it, being romantic about it. But the problem is that when it breaks down, eventually, they don't have the necessary mechanical skills to keep it running. But in nowadays, I think it has a completely different explanation. As you can see, the people who are romantic about motorcycling, they actually have tons of knowledge about motorcycles. So much that it's almost impossible for them to give up motorcycling, even if it's unfit for most of the modern day practical use. Just look at the statistics. It's 27 more times likely a motorcyclist got killed in the case of a collision compared to passenger cars. Now let's talk about programming. It's in a very similar situation. People who have gained so much knowledge about how the low level of programming language works, and in this group of people, they spend huge amount of time to do optimizations. Like we all know, premature optimization is the evil of all engineering. And then we have another group of people which similar like myself that are so obsessed with the tight feedback loop that we sometimes use very backward tools like Emacs or Vim and refuse any benefit provided by the modern statistic tools and solely rely on the testing-driven development. Well, there are tons of examples of such things. Even for car people, there is manual stick drive and joysticks. So it comes back to the book of the Zen and Art of Motorcycling Maintenance. The punchline of the book, I think, is the question, what is quality? So the quality is a term that Rob used to describe how people evaluate their work. Everyone aims for the best quality they want for their work. But the problem is the definition of what is quality is vastly different from person to person. As a software engineer or programmers, we all notice that the curse of knowledge. We all know that coworkers that have very deep knowledge about certain technology stacks that have developed an unhealthy relationships with their romantic weapon of choice. It's very similar to Karl Marx's commodity fetishism, that he criticized capitalism societies that they produce the goods that they believe to be of quality, quotation, but actually it's just a waste of resource because they have been massive over-engineered. As a software engineer, I always have to be self-aware that not to fall into this trap. It is cool to have 100% test coverage. It's even cooler then you can debug a satellite after months you launch it into space, also known as the NASA Deep Space One. And it is awesome to be able to optimize your program to use less CPU or have the awesome procedure generation levels that only takes very little disk space. Also, structure my programs in a way that is so functional programming that there is no side effects and pure to test. The way I see it, to be classical, that means you want to dig down into all the details about how things work. First, you have to be romantic. As our society has become layers of abstraction built upon automations and engineering achievements of each other's, that leveraging each other's work is very important, but like Jackie Stewart said, you do need the mechanical empathy to develop the very tight feedback loop in your head. Am I feeling silly to ride a motorcycle to do groceries? I definitely do. There's no reason not to use a vehicle that can hold a grocery way better. But will I give up my bike and be absolutely practical about everything around my life? Absolutely not. Every time I go out for a dry ride like this, the feeling of the engine vibrating and the direct attachments to the gearbox, or seeing other riders, they all put a smile on my face. Sometimes I feel like in order to be wise, you have to be dumb. Open up yourself to the mistakes so that you can learn. In the end of the day, the biggest mistake you can make is not to try hard enough. If you ask yourself why I didn't try that in the first place, the answer of because it's too much effort is almost always not good enough. Okay, I feel like I'm running dry here, but I do wish that if you have time, give the book a read. Then, and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance from Robert Pirsig. In future videos, I'll probably go back to talking more about programming and software engineering in general, because like I said, I do have an unhealthy relationships with my romantic weapon of choice, kosher programming. Okay, that's pretty much it. If you have watched into my video for so far, then that I hope at least it solved your sleeping problem. I'll see you in the next video, and you're welcome to keep on watching as I'm approaching to my destination, the Michael's Craft Store.